The lecture hall of the Galactic Academy shimmered with soft blue light. Rows of wide seats curved around the central stage where a tall alien teacher stood, her scales reflecting the glow of the screens behind her. Her name was Marin, and she was respected across the academy for her knowledge of planetary biology. The students who filled the hall came from many worlds, their colors, shapes, and voices creating a living mosaic of the galaxy's brightest minds. The subject that day was planetary hazard classification. It was one of the most discussed topics among cadets because it determined how civilizations were ranked in strength, adaptation, and survival. Most students dreamed of serving as researchers, explorers, or diplomats, and understanding which planets were safe or deadly was crucial to their future missions. Marin began her lecture in a calm, confident voice. "Students, today we discuss the nature of Deathworlds," she said, as symbols shifted on the holographic screen behind her. A death world is a planet where life exists against overwhelming odds, where the environment itself is a constant threat, and only the strongest or most adaptive species can survive. Throughout the known galaxy, only one such world has produced an intelligent civilization. A ripple of pride moved through some of the students who shared Marin's silver-gray skin. They were from Terran, a world famous for its harsh deserts, violent storms, and dense predator life. It was said that even the air on Terran carried spores that could weaken weaker species. Marin gestured toward the screen showing a golden world orbiting a red sun. Terran, our home. Class 7 on the hazard scale. The most dangerous known planet to ever sustain civilization. We, the Terran, are the only Deathworlders who learned to build cities instead of running from the wild. We tamed the storms and conquered the beasts. We are living proof that strength comes from struggle. The students applauded. A few even hissed in admiration, their species' version of cheer. Marin smiled at their enthusiasm. She loved teaching the younger generation about the resilience of her people. She truly believed that no other world could match what Terran had endured. At the far corner of the hall, one student sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. She looked human, smaller, smoother, and almost fragile compared to the others. Her name was Leela, and she had transferred from a distant colony only a few months ago. She rarely spoke unless asked. She always paid attention, as Marin continued explaining how other worlds ranked lower on the hazard scale. Leela listened with growing interest. She had read about many of these worlds during her academy training. Some were tropical, some frozen, some filled with strange gases, but none of them sounded as harsh as home. When Marin repeated her conclusion, "We, the people of Terran, are the only Deathworlders to ever rise to civilization," Leela's thoughts started to drift. She remembered her grandmother's stories of sandstorms that could bury whole towns, of mountains that spat fire, of oceans that swallowed ships whole. She remembered walking to school under heavy rains and through biting cold winters. To her, danger was not something rare. It was the background of life. The room filled with quiet pride as Marin looked over her students. "This is why our people are strong. This is why the galaxy respects us. We are proof that civilization can rise even on the edge of destruction." Lila hesitated, glancing at the glowing ceiling for courage. Then she slowly raised her hand. The room went still. It was rare for her to speak, and her soft voice usually went unnoticed. Now every eye turned toward her. Marin noticed her immediately and tilted her head in polite curiosity. "Yes, young one? You have a question?" Lila stood up, her voice steady but quiet. "Teacher, you said Terran is the only death world that built civilization." "That is correct," Marin said with a calm smile. "It is an honor that belongs to our world alone." Lila paused for a moment before asking, "Have you ever heard the name Earth?" The silence that followed was almost heavy. A few alien students exchanged puzzled glances. One whispered to another, "Is that the human world?" "The blue one." Marin blinked, trying to recall the name. "Earth," she repeated slowly. "The human homeworld. Yes, I am familiar with the records. It is categorized as a Class 2 world. Quite peaceful. A place of oceans and gentle weather. It supports a variety of life, but is far from a death world. Lila did not argue right away. She took a breath and spoke carefully. Maybe the records are old. Or maybe your scale doesn't measure everything. Where I come from, the air can freeze or burn depending on where you stand. Our storms have lightning strong enough to tear trees from the ground. We have oceans filled with creatures that hunt for sport. Even plants can poison or choke. And yet we live there. We learn. We grow. Soft laughter spread across the room. It was not cruel, just amused. The alien students found the idea strange. To them, humans were known as explorers and traders, not survivors of a hostile world. A few of them whispered to each other, smiling at what they thought was exaggeration. Marin raised a hand, signaling quiet. "I appreciate your enthusiasm, Lila," she said kindly. "But the Galactic Survey has examined your world thoroughly. Earth's gravity is high, yes, but its ecosystem is stable compared to a death world. Perhaps what you describe feels dangerous to you, but it is not the same." Lila looked down for a moment, unsure whether to continue. But then she remembered the faces of her people back home, the ones who worked in burning heat, who survived floods and droughts, who built homes on shifting ground and never stopped smiling. She lifted her head again. "Maybe not the same," she said softly, "but maybe you haven't seen it the way we do. On my world, danger is not a stranger. It's part of us. It's what teaches us to adapt." There was a pause. The amusement in the room began to fade. Something in her tone, calm but firm, made the other students stop whispering. Marin's eyes narrowed with mild curiosity. "You speak as if your world has trained you," Marin said slowly. "It has," Lila answered. "Every season, every storm, every challenge. We don't fight to survive because we hate the world. We survive because we love it, because we believe we can belong anywhere if we try." The teacher was quiet for a long moment. She studied the young human, sensing the conviction behind her words. There was no arrogance there, no defiance, only quiet truth, Marin finally said. "You are welcome to bring data if you wish to support your claim. We will examine it together. For now, let us continue the lesson." Lila nodded respectfully and sat down again. But the atmosphere in the room had changed. The students who had laughed before now looked at her with new curiosity. Some wondered if she truly believed what she had said. Others wondered if she knew something they did not. As Marin resumed her lecture, she found her thoughts drifting. The words she had prepared came automatically, but part of her mind was replaying the conversation. There had been something in Lila's kind of strength that did not come from arrogance or pride, but from experience. When the class ended, students filed out in small groups, chatting about the lesson. Lila stayed behind to pack her notes. Marin watched her for a moment and then spoke softly. "Lila, would you wait a moment, please?" The human turned and approached the teacher's desk. "Yes, teacher." Marin looked at her with curiosity. "Tell me, how many times has your world nearly destroyed your kind?" Lila tilted her head, thinking, "I don't know. Many times, I think. Sometimes from storms, sometimes from our own mistakes. But we always found a way to start again." Marin nodded slowly. "And you say this is what shaped your people?" Lila smiled faintly. "Yes. We learned to endure. Maybe that is what makes us who we are." The teacher leaned back, thoughtful. "Perhaps there is more to your world than our records show. Bring me your data next week. I want to see this Earth of yours." Lila felt a quiet warmth rise in her chest. "Thank you, teacher." "I will." As she left the hall, Marin watched her go. The words "ever heard the name Earth" echoed in her mind. She could not explain why those words unsettled her. Maybe it was because she had never seen a human speak with that kind of calm certainty before. When the door closed and the hall grew quiet, Marin opened her notes and looked again at the chart showing Terren as the only death world. For the first time in her long teaching career, she wondered if the chart might be missing something important. The next day began like any other at the Galactic Academy. The sun of Terran's primary system shone through the transparent domes of the Academy City, painting long rays of gold and blue across the halls. Students of many species filled the corridors, their voices blending into a soft hum of hundreds of conversations. Lila walked quietly among them, her small steps careful but steady. She carried her datapad close to her chest, thinking about what the teacher had asked her to bring. During the night, she had not slept much. She had searched through old archives from human history, looking for records that could show what Earth was truly like. The more she looked, the more she realized how strange her home must seem to the rest of the galaxy. To her, mountains, storms, and oceans were part of life. But for species from gentler worlds, even a cold wind could be dangerous. She wondered how to explain this difference without sounding like she was trying to prove something. When Lila reached the lecture hall, seats were already half full. Alien students sat in groups, their voices mixing like a low tide of sounds. Some greeted her politely. Others gave small smiles. A few, however, looked at her with curious amusement. They had heard the story about the human who claimed her world was a death world. Rumors traveled fast at the academy. Marin entered the hall soon after, her tall figure commanding quiet without needing to say a word. She placed her teaching tablet on the stand, and the screens behind her came alive with glowing diagrams of ecosystems and planetary data. The topic today was interplanetary survival factors. It's a subject closely linked to yesterday's discussion. "Good morning, students," Marin said with her usual calm tone. "Today we will explore how species adapt to harsh environments. As you know, Terran lifeforms evolved strong exoskeletons and toxin resistance to survive our homeworld's hazards. On less dangerous worlds, adaptation takes different forms. Balance rather than endurance becomes the key." As she spoke, she noticed Lila sitting quietly near the middle row. Marin's thoughts flickered to yesterday's exchange. She had spent part of the night reviewing the official data on Earth. The records described it as a moderate environment with oxygen-rich air, large water bodies, and mild temperature ranges. Yet there were notes about frequent natural disasters, strong weather cycles, and a surprisingly wide range of hostile fauna. The data was incomplete in many areas, as few expeditions had ever explored it deeply. She decided not to mention the conversation right away. Still, curiosity stayed in her mind like an itch she could not ignore. Halfway through the lecture, one of the alien students, a young blue-scaled being named Toril, raised his hand. "Teacher Marin," he said with a polite tone, "I heard something interesting yesterday. A rumor that there might be another death world besides Terran. A world called Earth." A quiet wave of whispers spread through the hall. Lila kept her eyes forward, saying nothing. Marin gave a soft sigh. "Ah yes, the discussion from yesterday. Our human student shared that her homeworld may possess qualities similar to a death world. It is a fascinating claim, though our current data suggests otherwise." Toril turned toward Lila, his bright eyes curious. "Is it true, human? Is your world really that dangerous?" Lila felt dozens of eyes turn to her. Her heart beat faster, but she did not want to sound afraid. She stood up slowly. "Yes, it is dangerous, but it is also beautiful. We have animals that can crush steel. We have storms that can cover continents. We have plants that can poison or heal, sometimes both. And still, we live there and we grow." A few students laughed softly. One of them, a feathered creature from a calm water world, shook his head. "How can that be? If your world is that violent, how can you even build cities? Why not leave it?" Lila looked at him and answered, "Because it is our home. Because we learned how to live with the danger, we do not run from it. We adapt." The laughter grew louder. It was not cruel, but it carried disbelief. Some thought she was exaggerating. Others thought she was trying to impress. Marin lifted her hand to calm the noise. "Enough. Let us not mock the experiences of another. Curiosity is welcome, but respect must remain." The room quieted again. Lila sat down, her face calm even though her pulse raced. She felt a little embarrassed, but also certain that what she had said was true. When the lecture ended, Marin called her to stay once more. The hall emptied slowly, filled with murmurs of conversation. Some students looked at her with interest, others with teasing smiles, but she ignored them. She walked to the front where Marin waited. "Lila," Marin said gently, "I have reviewed your world's files. The data is incomplete and perhaps outdated. If you can provide your own information, I would like to see it. Lila nodded and handed over her datapad. I collected everything I could find from human records. Climate patterns, natural history, and survival data. Marin accepted the pad and projected the contents onto the holographic screen. Images filled the air, vast deserts, endless oceans, mountain ranges covered in snow, storms spinning across entire regions. The alien teacher studied the visuals with growing focus. This is your world, she murmured. The variety of environments alone is impressive. There is more, Lila said softly. She tapped the pad, and another set of images appeared, massive waves, striking cities. Volcanic eruptions lighting the night sky. Frozen plains where explorers trudged through blizzards. These are parts of our history. We did not always have safety. We learned it the hard way. Marin's silver eyes reflected the storm images. How many of your people live on this world? Billions, Lila replied. We spread everywhere, from the hot deserts to the cold poles. There is almost nowhere we cannot live. The teacher leaned closer, fascinated. And these creatures? Are they truly from your world? Lila nodded. Yes, the big one with the teeth is called a shark. It hunts in the water. The one with claws and fur is a bear. There are many like them. We learned to study them and to live beside them. Marin watched a short video clip of humans swimming near massive predators, climbing tall peaks, and walking through burning deserts. Her expression shifted from disbelief to quiet awe. How can your species survive this? She asked. Lila's answer was calm. We learn to work together. Alone, one of us is weak. Together, we build shelter, share food, and protect each other. We are not born strong, teacher. We become strong by helping one another. For a moment, Marin said nothing. The holographic images flickered between peaceful forests and raging storms. The contrast was so strange it felt almost impossible. This data, Aran said at last, shows environmental hazards far higher than Class 2. Some readings even exceed Class 6 in short cycles. Yet your world remains stable enough for growth. That balance should not be possible. Lila smiled slightly. Maybe that is why we are strange to others. Our world challenges us, but it also gives us everything we need to survive. Marin folded her arms, thinking deeply. I see now why you raised your hand. Perhaps we have been too quick to assume what makes a death world. It may not be only about danger, but also about how life faces it. Lila nodded. That is what I believe. A death world is not just a place of death. It is a place that teaches life to fight for every breath. The teacher looked at her for a long time, her expression unreadable. Then she said quietly, You have given me much to consider, Lila. I will review this data further. For now, you may go. Lila bowed slightly and turned to leave. As she walked out of the hall, a few students waited outside, still curious. Toril, the blue-scaled one, approached her with a small smile. You really believe your world is a death world? He asked. I do, she replied. You might too if you saw it. Toril tilted his head. Maybe one day I will. It sounds frightening. Lila smiled kindly. It is. But it is also beautiful. She left the building. The academy's wide campus opened before her. Artificial gardens, transparent domes, and tall towers reflected the alien sun. Everything looked calm and ordered. She thought about home, again the smell of rain, the sound of thunder, the warmth of soil after a storm. She missed it. Back in the lecture hall, Marin sat alone, reviewing the human data. The longer she looked, the more uneasy she felt. Earth's records did not match the reports filed by survey ships centuries ago. There were signs of constant natural turmoil. Yet humanity had not only survived, had thrived. Spreading beyond its world to colonize space, she whispered to herself. Perhaps they are Deathworlders too, but they never realized it. When evening came, Marin walked out onto the Academy's open terrace. The twin moons of Terran hung above the horizon, and the air carried the faint scent of iron. She thought about her own people's pride, about how they believed themselves the only ones forged by hardship. Now she was no longer sure. In her mind, she could still hear Lila's soft voice asking, Have you ever heard the name Earth? It was a question that no longer sounded simple. It was a challenge to everything she had been taught as the night deepened. Marin decided she would bring Leela's data before the Academy Council. If the humans' claims were true, the galaxy would need to rethink its understanding of life itself. For now, the teacher smiled faintly, feeling a strange sense of anticipation. Something told her that this human girl, quiet and polite, might have just changed everything. The next week at the Galactic Academy began with quiet excitement. The air was full of whispers. Students had heard that teacher Marin was going to present new findings during the next lecture. Rumors spread quickly through the halls. Some said the human student had found proof that her world was more dangerous than the Academy believed. Others said it was impossible, that no soft-skinned species could come from a true death world. Leela walked to the hall early that morning. She carried her datapad again, the same one filled with images and records from Earth. Her heart was calm, but her mind was full of thoughts. She did not want to argue or win against anyone. She only wanted them to understand what her world really was and what it had made her people become. When she entered, Marin was already there. The teacher stood beside the main screen, her long silver robe shining under the hall lights. The expression on her face was thoughtful but gentle. She gave Leela a small nod of acknowledgement. Lila nodded back, taking her usual seat in the middle row, as the other students arrived. The noise of different voices filled the air again. Some greeted Leela politely, but others whispered among themselves, curious about what was going to happen. Marin waited until the room was full before she spoke. "Students," Marin began, her voice carrying easily through the hall, "today we will look at something very unusual. We will study data provided by one of our classmates about her homeworld. You may remember the discussion from last week about Deathworld classification." The room grew quieter. "Everyone remembered," Marin continued. "Our human student, Lila, has given us new data about her planet, Earth. After reviewing it, I found results that challenge what we thought we knew. I invite you to see the evidence and decide for yourselves." She turned toward the screen and touched the control pad. The lights dimmed, and a vast holographic globe appeared in the air, glowing blue and green. "This," Marin said, "is Earth." The students leaned forward as the hologram rotated slowly, showing swirling white clouds and dark blue seas. It looked beautiful and calm at first, but when Marin began to zoom in, the scenes changed. First came the deserts, wide and endless, with waves of sand that moved like water under the wind. Then came the frozen poles, where storms raged endlessly and temperatures fell so low that air itself turned into crystals. Next came the jungles, alive with countless creatures. Marin pointed to the data charts floating beside the images. Radiation levels on the surface of Earth are higher than on most civilized worlds. Gravity is nearly double that of Terran. The planet experiences constant natural disasters, including earthquakes, hurricanes, and volcanic eruptions. The number of predatory species is extraordinary. A murmur spread among the students. Some looked amazed. Others looked doubtful. One student raised a hand. "Teacher, if it is that dangerous, how did they ever survive long enough to build cities?" "That," Marin said, "is what makes this study remarkable. I will let Lila explain." All eyes turned to the human girl. Lila stood up slowly, taking a small breath before she spoke. "Earth was never an easy place to live," she began. "When our ancestors walked there, they had nothing but fire and simple tools. The cold killed many of us. The heat did too. The animals hunted us, and diseases spread fast. But every time we fell, we stood up again." She pressed a button on her datapad, and new images appeared. They showed humans climbing icy mountains, sailing across vast oceans, and building cities beside rivers that often flooded. "We learned from the world," she said. "We learned to read the stars, to grow food in bad soil, to build walls against storms. Every danger became a lesson. We did not escape Earth's tests. We adapted to them." Marin watched her speak with quiet respect. There was no arrogance in her tone, only truth. Lila showed more data graphs of temperature extremes, records of diseases, and examples of large predators. One image showed a massive sea creature rising from the water with rows of sharp teeth. The students gasped softly. "This is a shark," Lila explained. "It has existed longer than any human civilization. It hunts even without hunger. And yet we swim in the same oceans. We learned how to avoid it, how to study it, and even how to protect it when we understood its role in our world." Another image showed storms the size of entire continents. These are hurricanes. They come every year, tearing through cities and forests. We cannot stop them, but we rebuild every time. That is what Earth taught us, to never stop. The students listened in silence. Even Terrell, who had laughed before, now watched with wide eyes. Marin nodded slowly. "You say your people rebuild each time. How long has your civilization survived these challenges?" Lila answered, "Our species has been growing for thousands of years. We faced floods, plagues, droughts, wars, and still we stand. We even left Earth to reach the stars." Aaron looked thoughtful. "Your people have endured more than most species could imagine." The class sat still as the data kept flowing across the screens. The more Maran analyzed it, the more she realized the readings were not exaggerations. Earth's environment truly matched the danger levels of a death world. Its conditions changed fast, sometimes within hours. And its ecosystem was filled with life that fought constantly for survival. One student from a peaceful moon world raised her hand shyly. "Lila, if your world is so hard to live on, why do you still love it?" Lila smiled softly. "Because it made us who we are. Every sunrise feels like a victory. Every step we take is earned. Earth is not gentle, but it is home. It gives us beauty and danger together. Maybe that is what makes life there so precious." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. Even Marin felt them settle deep inside her heart. She remembered her own world, the burning deserts of Terran, the storms that carved stone. She had always thought that made her people unique. Now she realized humanity might share that same fire. As the lecture continued, Marin opened the floor for questions. One student asked about human technology, another about their cities, and another about their exploration beyond their world. Lila answered each question patiently. She explained how humans invented machines to fly across the sky and vessels to travel between stars at one point. A student asked, "Do humans ever fear their own world?" Lila hesitated before replying. "Yes, we do. But we also respect it. We know it can destroy us if we are careless. That is why we study it so carefully. We try to live with it, not against it." Marin smiled slightly. "Wisdom born from hardship," she said. "I think I understand now." The lecture lasted much longer than usual. When it finally ended, Marin dismissed the class, but asked Lila to stay once more. The hall emptied until only the two of them remained. Marin looked at the holographic image of Earth still turning slowly in the air. "Lila," she said, "your data is clear. Your world should not be classified as Class 2. I will recommend that the council review it again. I believe Earth belongs on the Death World list." Lila blinked, surprised. "You mean it?" "Yes," Marin said firmly. "I have taught for many years, and I have studied many worlds. None of them combine danger and life in the way yours does. You have shown me proof, and you have shown me something else, courage." Lila felt warmth rise in her chest. "Thank you, teacher. I only wanted people to see what Earth really is." "They will," Marin said. "I will make sure of it." For a moment, the two stood in silence, watching the rotating globe. Then Marin added quietly, "Your people may be stronger than you realize. You have learned to live where others would perish. That is the mark of true Deathworlders." Lila smiled. "Maybe strength is not about power. Maybe it is about not giving up." Marin nodded. "I agree." Later that evening, Marin prepared her report for the council. She gathered all the data from Lila's files and added her own analysis. Her summary concluded with a simple statement: the human homeworld. Earth demonstrates environmental conditions consistent with Deathworld classification. Species originating there show exceptional adaptability, and emotional resilience. Recommendation: reclassify Earth to Deathworld Class 6. She read the sentence twice before sending it. It felt like history in the making. When she finished, Marin looked out of her window at the Academy grounds. The sky glowed orange as the system's smaller sun set behind the towers. She wondered how many other worlds out there had been misunderstood, how many more hidden death worlds waited to be discovered. Meanwhile, in her dormitory, Lila sat by the window watching the stars. She thought of Earth, the smell of rain, the songs of birds at dawn, the sound of thunder rolling across valleys. She missed it deeply, but she was proud. For the first time, someone outside her species had seen the truth about her world. The next day, the news began to spread through the Academy. Students whispered that the council had received Marin's report. Some laughed, some doubted, but others were intrigued. A few even started calling Lila the human from the death world, half in jest and half in respect. Lila did not mind. She knew what her people were capable of. Humanity had never needed others to believe in them. They had always proved themselves through action in the teacher's lounge. Marin listened as her colleagues discussed the matter. Some were skeptical, others curious. Humans, as one said. They seemed so gentle. Could they truly come from such a world? Marin answered calmly. Gentle and strong can exist together. Sometimes the strongest hearts are those that learned kindness in a cruel place. The day of the Galactic Council hearing arrived quietly, but with a weight that seemed to fill the entire Academy. The hall in which the council gathered was vast and circular, built to accommodate representatives from thousands of worlds. Its walls shimmered with a faint energy field that projected the history and achievements of each member species. Above, the ceiling displayed the motions of countless stars, as if the galaxy itself was watching. Lila walked into the chamber with Marin by her side. Her steps were steady, though her heart beat faster than usual. The room was filled with beings of every shape, color, and size, many of whom she had never seen before. Some looked curious, others skeptical, and a few even looked slightly amused at the sight of a small human among them. At the center of the room, a raised platform held the council members. Their expressions were formal and unreadable. Each wore robes representing their homeworlds, and their voices, when they spoke, carried authority and centuries of experience. Marin whispered, "Do not be afraid, Lila. Speak honestly and calmly. You will only tell the truth about your homeworld." "That is enough," Lila nodded. She had practiced her words many times, but knew she did not need fancy explanations. Earth's story could not be exaggerated. Its truth was powerful on its own. The head of the council, a tall being with translucent skin and glowing eyes named Varel, addressed her. "Human representative, we have reviewed preliminary reports provided by your teacher. You claim that your homeworld, Earth, qualifies as a death world. Explain this claim with evidence. Convince us why this classification is warranted." Lila took a deep breath and began, "Earth is not a peaceful world. It has deserts that stretch beyond the eye, storms that destroy cities, volcanoes that erupt without warning, oceans filled with predators, and weather that can freeze or burn. These are only the natural dangers. We have also faced diseases, famine, and natural disasters. Yet, we survive. We grow. We create. We explore." The council members listened, some leaning forward, others quietly examining floating holograms of Earth. Lila pressed a button, and images appeared in the chamber. Massive hurricanes spinning across oceans. Human explorers climbing frozen mountains, volcanic eruptions near settlements. Deserts stretching endlessly under blazing suns. "This is Earth," Lila continued. "It is a world that tests every life that exists on it. We are not naturally the strongest species, but we adapt. We learn, we work together. That is what makes us capable of surviving a planet that could easily destroy us." A murmur swept across the chamber. Varel's glowing eyes regarded her with interest. "Your claim challenges centuries of classification," he said. "How do you explain your species' ability to thrive despite these conditions?" Lila spoke without hesitation. We are curious, creative, and persistent. We do not fear failure. We learn from it. We do not run from danger. We find ways to live alongside it. That is why humanity survived and expanded beyond Earth. Our world made us strong, not because of brute force, but because of courage, intelligence, and cooperation. The council paused. One member, a large insectoid being named Thalix, asked, "Are you certain this is not exaggeration? We have examined your planet. It appears moderately dangerous. Many creatures are threatening, but nothing exceeds the limits of other high-class planets." Leela shook her head calmly. "The reports you read are incomplete. Your instruments cannot measure human ingenuity, endurance, and unity. Earth's dangers change rapidly and unpredictably. Its species have learned to respond to these changes better than any other known intelligent life. If you evaluate danger by survival alone, humans are exceptional." Maron stepped forward. "Council members, I have taught many students from diverse worlds. I have studied planetary environments and species adaptation. After reviewing Lila's evidence firsthand, I can state that Earth meets the standards of a death world. Its people have faced threats that would have destroyed most civilizations. They survived, thrived, and evolved in ways that demonstrate resilience beyond our understanding." The room was quiet. Several council members whispered among themselves. One asked softly, "Can this be true? A Class 2 world, reclassified as a death world?" Virel raised a hand, silencing the chamber. "Human student, you have presented compelling evidence. The council will conduct further review. However, based on your testimony and the data provided, we recognize that Earth possesses characteristics of a death world. We request further documentation from your teacher and other human sources to confirm these findings." Lila nodded respectfully. "I will provide anything needed. You will see that our world is not gentle, but it allows life to rise stronger than anywhere else." After the hearing, the council took a brief recess. Members whispered to one another, some looking astonished, others skeptical but curious. Marin walked with Lila in the hall outside the chamber. "You did very well," Marin said. "You spoke calmly, clearly, and honestly. That is exactly what they needed to hear." Lila smiled faintly. "I was nervous, but I only told the truth. I cannot make them believe anything else. Sometimes truth is stronger than any argument," Marin replied. "And your truth has shaken the council. That is remarkable for someone your age." The human student's thoughts drifted to Earth. She imagined its storms, deserts, and forests. She remembered the laughter of children, the songs of birds, the roaring of oceans. Her homeworld was not perfect, but it had made her people strong in ways the galaxy had yet to understand. When the council reconvened, they reviewed the evidence in greater detail. Holographic images of Earth's natural disasters, species, and human settlements were analyzed. Scientists from different worlds spoke, many expressing surprise. How could a soft-skinned, small species survive such harsh conditions? Some admitted they had underestimated humans. Virel spoke again. "It is clear that humanity has adapted to challenges far greater than we initially believed. Earth exhibits a complex balance of danger and sustainability. Its people possess exceptional resilience and resourcefulness. The Council will update the planetary classification system to reflect this new understanding." A murmur of astonishment spread across the observers in the chamber. For centuries, Terran had been considered the only death world. Now a new planet would share that title. Humanity, a small, gentle-looking species, had joined the ranks of the galaxy's most resilient civilizations. Lila felt a quiet pride rise within her. She did not need applause or recognition. The truth about her world was now out for all to see. Her people, forged in storms, deserts, and oceans, would finally be understood. Marin placed a hand on Lila's shoulder. "You have done more than prove a point about your world. You have changed the galaxy's understanding of life itself. That is something few ever accomplish." Lila nodded, feeling a mixture of humility and satisfaction. "I only shared what I knew. My world speaks for itself." The council members began drafting the formal report. Earth would be officially classified as a death world, joining Terran in recognition of its harsh environment and the exceptional adaptability of its people. The news spread quickly across interstellar communication networks. In the days that followed, students across the academy discussed the revelation with excitement. Many came to speak to Lila, asking questions about her homeworld, how humans survived, and what made them so resilient. She answered patiently, sharing stories of Earth's natural challenges and the ways her people had learned to thrive. Some of the younger students, inspired by her example, began to consider how they might face challenges in their own lives and worlds. Lila's quiet courage had sparked curiosity, respect, and a new perspective on survival among the next generation of explorers and scholars. In her dormitory that evening, Lila reflected on what had happened. She thought of the first day she had raised her hand in Marin's class, the moment she had asked, "Ever heard the name Earth?" She had only intended to share her world story, never imagining it would change the galaxy's perception. Her mind wandered to the future. Perhaps one day humans would travel even further, encountering worlds even harsher than Earth or Terran. Perhaps they would meet other species who had survived against impossible odds. She smiled at the thought. Her people had always adapted, and they always would. Meanwhile, Marin wrote a private note to herself. Strength is not measured only by size, speed, or aggression. Sometimes it is measured by the ability to endure, to learn, and to rise again. Humans have taught me this lesson. The next morning, as Lila walked across the academy campus, students greeted her with smiles of respect and curiosity. For the first time, she felt the weight of being recognized not just as a student, but as a representative of her entire world. High above in the observation decks, Marin watched her. She had always been proud of Terran, but now she felt something new, a deep respect for another species. Humanity, the small, gentle species from a blue and green planet called Earth, had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to survive, to thrive, and to become more than anyone could have expected. The stars outside the dome seemed brighter that evening. Somewhere in the infinite galaxy, Earth continued to spin in silence, unaware of the recognition that had reached the farthest councils and academies. And yet for the first time, the galaxy knew. Earth was a death world, and humans were among the strongest of all known species. Months had passed since Lila's testimony at the Galactic Council. Earth had officially been classified as a death world, joining Terran among the galaxy's rare and most resilient planets. The announcement sent ripples through interstellar communities. Researchers, explorers, and diplomats discussed the revelation, and the galaxy began to view humanity in a new light. Lila walked through the academy halls with a quiet sense of pride. Students of every species now greeted her with respect. Some asked questions about her homeworld. Others wanted to hear stories of humans' survival strategies. Lila shared them all calmly, describing storms, deserts, oceans, and forests, and the ways humans had learned to live with danger instead of fearing it. Marin watched her quietly from her office window. The teacher's pride was deeper than ever. She had always believed in the strength of Terran, but now she saw that humans had endured challenges just as great, if not greater, and had done so with courage, intelligence, and resilience. One morning, Marin invited Lila to the academy's observation deck. The hall was open to the sky, and students could see the stars, planets, and moons stretching endlessly. Marin gestured toward a holographic display of Earth floating above the deck. "Lila," she said, "the galaxy now knows the truth about your world. But the story does not end here. Others will want to learn from humans. They will study your strategies, your adaptation, and your cooperation. Your people have set an example for all of us." Lila looked at the hologram, remembering oceans, mountains, deserts, and cities. She thought of the generations of humans who had survived storms, fires, and floods, and who had built civilizations that could reach the stars. "I hope they do more than study," she said softly. "I hope they understand that strength is not just in fighting, but in caring, helping, and learning." Ara nodded. "Yes, that is the greatest lesson your species brings. Even Deathworlders can be kind. Even the strongest hearts can be gentle. Humans have shown the galaxy what it truly means to endure without losing empathy. Word spread across the academy, and soon ambassadors from distant worlds requested meetings with Lila. They wanted to see how humans adapted, what tools they used, and how they had survived their world's hazards. Lila answered patiently, showing them Earth's strategies for cooperation and survival. Some of the species found it difficult to imagine that humans could survive in such a dangerous environment. They had assumed that only large, armored, or aggressive creatures could thrive on a death world. But as they listened to Lila, they realized that strength could take many forms. Humans survive not by brute force, but by intelligence, teamwork, and courage. Toril, the blue-scaled student who had laughed when she first mentioned Earth, approached her one afternoon. "I admit I was wrong," he said with a smile. "Your people are extraordinary. I cannot imagine facing such constant danger and still building such a civilization."
Alice smiled gently.
"We learn from the world, Toril. That is all. We do not fear it. We respect it, and we adapt." Toril nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps one day humans and Terran could share knowledge. Your ways of surviving could teach us, and ours could help you." "It would be wonderful," Lila said. "The galaxy is so big. There is always more to learn from each other." Back in the council chambers, Miran presented a follow-up report to the members. Showing the results of additional studies of Earth and its species, she emphasized that humans were not only survivors, but also innovators, collaborators, and explorers. The council listened carefully. Many species began to reconsider their assumptions about what it meant to be strong. Virel, the council head, spoke to Marin privately after the meeting. "You were correct in believing the humans' testimony. The galaxy will benefit greatly from understanding their resilience. Their story reminds us that danger does not define civilization. Adaptability does. We owe it to ourselves to study them further." Miran nodded. "I believe humanity will continue to surprise you. They have endured challenges beyond imagination and still strive to improve. Their courage is quiet but unwavering." Meanwhile, Lila prepared for her first mission beyond Terran's system. She had been selected to join a team of explorers sent to survey a newly discovered planet. The council had decided that humans should participate directly in galactic exploration, both to share their experience and to demonstrate their skills firsthand. As she packed her supplies, she thought of Earth. She imagined its deserts, forests, oceans, and mountains. She remembered storms that had forced her ancestors to work together, creatures that had taught her people caution, and disasters that had demanded ingenuity. Every challenge had made humanity stronger. Every difficulty had taught them resilience. Marin visited her before departure. "You carry more than supplies, Lila," she said. "You carry the example of your people. Remember, your courage and your insight will speak louder than words. Show them what it means to be from a death world." Lila nodded, feeling a quiet sense of responsibility. "I will, teacher. I promise to represent Earth well." When the expedition ship lifted off, she watched Terran grow smaller beneath her, then fade into the distance. The stars stretched before her, vast and silent, full of unknown worlds, but she did not feel fear. She felt confidence. Humans had always adapted. They had survived storms, earthquakes, predators, and floods. The galaxy might be full of dangers, but she knew her people could face them. During the journey, the crew, composed of species from many worlds, looked to Lila for guidance. When challenges arose, unpredictable gravitational shifts, strange magnetic storms, and alien creatures, they relied on her problem-solving skills. She explained Earth's strategies, assessed danger first, then worked together to respond. She shared how humans survived floods by building elevated shelters, how they observed predators to avoid them, and how they cultivated food in harsh conditions. Her team began to appreciate the wisdom of these approaches. Slowly, skepticism turned into respect. They started to see humans not as fragile beings, but as creatures shaped by one of the harshest worlds in the galaxy. As the ship approached the new planet, the crew faced unexpected challenges. Its surface was rocky and uneven, with sudden storms of wind and sand. Some crew members panicked, but Lila stayed calm. Observe first. Work together. Nothing we face is impossible if we act wisely, she said. Her words reminded everyone of the lessons of Earth. Together, they mapped the planet, collected samples, and documented hazards. Lila's calm leadership and knowledge of survival techniques made a critical difference. The team realized that humans, despite their appearance, had instincts and strategies honed over thousands of years of danger. When they returned to the Galactic Academy, news of their success spread quickly. Humans were no longer just students or observers. They were recognized as experts in survival, adaptation, and cooperation. Their example began to inspire other species to reconsider their ideas of strength and resilience. At a celebratory assembly, Ron spoke before the gathered students and faculty. The human student Leela has shown us that danger does not always mean defeat. Strength is measured not only by size or aggression, but by courage, ingenuity, and the ability to rise after each challenge. Humanity has earned its place among the galaxy's most resilient civilizations. The assembly erupted in applause. Students from every world cheered, many expressing new respect for humans. Lila stood quietly, her hands folded, feeling a sense of fulfillment. She had never sought recognition, but now she understood that her people's story could inspire the galaxy. Later, Marin and Lila stood together on the observation deck again, looking at the stars. Your world, Lila, has changed the galaxy's understanding of life, Marin said. Not by conquest, not by power, but by endurance, courage, and wisdom. That is something no one can ignore. Leela smiled. Earth taught us that even when the world is harsh, life can thrive if we do not give up. Maybe the galaxy will learn that too. Marin nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the distant suns. It already has. And this is only the beginning. Far away across the void of space, Earth continued to spin silently. Its mountains, oceans, deserts, and storms remained unchanged. Unaware that the galaxy had finally recognized its hidden strength, humanity's survival had always been quiet, patient, and steadfast. Now, the universe knew the truth. Humans were Deathworlders, resilient beyond expectation, ready to face the stars with courage, intelligence, and heart. Lila turned from the observation deck toward the academy, ready for the future. She had shown what humans could do. She had shared their story, and the galaxy had begun to listen. The stars stretched infinitely, full of worlds yet to be explored. But humans were no longer small or overlooked. They were recognized as survivors, explorers, and teachers of resilience. And in the vast expanse of space, one truth had been proven: Earth's children, shaped by storms, mountains, oceans, and trials, could thrive anywhere the galaxy allowed them to go. The story of humanity had only just begun, but the message was clear. Strength could come from endurance. Courage could come from facing danger without surrender. And even the smallest beings from a blue and green planet could change the galaxy forever.